Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Betting Pros Divisional Round Saturday live stream brought to you by BetMGM, where you can get a risk-free bet of up to $1,000 with the promo code BettingPros at first deposit. He's Fitz, I'm Freedman, Pat Fitzmaurice, and Matthew Freedman here to highlight our favorite NFL bets for the second weekend of NFL playoff football. And of course, we will answer questions. If you got them, drop them in the chat. We will get to them throughout the show. Fitz, the super wildcard weekend lived up to the name. And we got some good matchups to talk about for the divisional round. Today, we've got the two number one seeds playing. And then tomorrow, we've got two games that I would say have the gravitas of a conference championship based on the caliber of teams playing in those games. And so some great football. And obviously, Fitz, this morning, I think you witnessed some great basketball, high school basketball. Your son is one of the players on the sophomore team, I believe. You went to the game. How was it?
It was good. They won by 14 points. Things were a little sloppy at times, but the result was satisfying in the end.
Sloppy but satisfying, sort of like the food that I eat on a semi-regular basis. All right, let's talk about these four games on the slate. Each of us is going to highlight our two favorite bets, whether it's side, total, money line, and as it happens, combined, we have bets on all four games. So we will cover first the Saturday games and then the Sunday games. And then, if people have questions, we can hit on them throughout the show or at the end of the show as they pop up. And let's start with the Saturday games. The Jags at Chiefs. 9.5 is the number that's floating around the market. Looking at our odds page now at Betting Pros, 9.5 is the number. Actually, let me make sure I'm looking at this right. Yeah. 9.5 is the number right now at BetMGM. Again, that risk-free bet of up to $1,000 with the promo code BettingPros at first deposit at BetMGM. Fitz, what are you seeing that would make you want to go against the Chiefs in this spot?
Yeah, and this one's been bet up, Freedman. Like, it was 8.5 earlier in the week, and now it's gone up. Who knows? Maybe we see it get to 10 before kickoff. But so part of it is that I think you and I both have a great deal of respect for the Chiefs, and throughout the year on these shows have been on the Chiefs far more often than we have been going against them. And it's burned me, quite frankly, a lot of the times. Like, we know the Chiefs sort of like to play with their prey, as it were, bat around the mouse before they actually kill it. And the Chiefs are 2-7-1 against the spread in their last 10 games. They're 1-7-1 against the spread in their last 9 home games. And the Jags have now suddenly won 6 straight, and they're 5-1 against the spread over that stretch. They have to feel like they're playing with house money at this point. They stared into the abyss when they were down 27-0 against the Chargers last week and mounted that historic comeback. I get a feeling that they're going to be playing pretty free and loose and confidently this week. The Chiefs, Lord knows they can score. They're averaging 29.2 points per game. But the Jaguars have averaged 29.5 points during this 6-game winning streak. So I think they can match firepower and make this a closer game than a lot of people are expecting. Now, granted, the Chiefs did host the Jaguars in week 10. They won by 10 points. They probably should have won by more because they lost the turnover battle 3-0. Mahomes, threw for over 300 yards. The Chiefs rolled up almost 500 yards of offense and didn't have a single penalty the whole game. So we have seen the Chiefs thoroughly outplay the Jaguars in a head-to-head meeting before, but I think the Jaguars have found their footing since then. Pretty much that was the last or one of the last games before they really stepped on the gas here and, had a very nice stretch run. So I kind of think that nice stretch run continues and they make this a really competitive game. I like that many points. I think that's too many here.
Yeah, I've got this. I hear everything you're saying. I've got this projected at 9.5. So I'm right there with the current market. I would set an alert in the Betting Pros app to where if this got to 10.5, which I don't think it will, but if it happens to aggressively move somehow with a whole bunch of Chiefs money coming in, if it moves like that to 10.5, then I would consider taking the Jags on the other side of it through the key number. But at 9.5, I'm staying away. I bet this early on at 8.5 with the Chiefs. I think that they are significantly the better team. But I will say, historically, you're on the right side here. Over the past 20 years, underdogs are 25, 12-1 against the spread, against the number one seed in the divisional round. And that makes sense. It's the playoffs. So, more casual bettors are going to be coming into the market, and casual bettors tend to prefer the favorites. They tend to prefer the better team in the matchup. And, plus it's the better team in this spot at home coming off of the bye. So you can put all that together and you can see why the market historically has been inflated in this spot. And so, yeah, you are on the sharper side of history with this bet here. But man, I gotta say, I do think that this is the spot. Mahomes was great in that first game against the Jags, 331 yards, 4 touchdowns passing to just 1 interception, 74.3% completion percentage, 10.5 adjusted yards per attempt. Mahomes is the difference in this game. He's a top 2 passer, and any of the passing metrics that you would look at this year, whether it's EPA, completion percentage above expectation, QBR, whatever it is. The Chiefs are number 1 in pass defense. The Jags are number 29 in defensive pass DVOA. I think they're going to struggle going against Mahomes. And then especially, Travis Kelce, the best tight end in the league, one of the best just pure receivers in the NFL for the past half decade, going against a Jags team that is number 32 in defensive pass DVOA against tight ends. This just, at 9.5, I think that's the right number. But if I still at any point had to bet at 9.5, I would probably still be on the Chiefs in this spot, because I would say I lean more towards 10 than I do to 9.
Are you inclined to take either end of the total here?
No,
50, it's 53, right? Yeah, I've got it pretty much right on that. I don't see any value.
Yeah, I have it projected at 53.2. So I guess you could say I'm slightly to the over, but I would not be betting the over in this spot here. If I had to bet anything, I would be betting the under. I think that's how this game will probably play out, just a little bit tight here. So, all right, I hear you're on the Jags plus 9.5. Looking at the evening game we have going tonight, I am on Eagles Giants under 48.5 at DraftKings. And, looking across the market in the BettingPros odds page, this number is, let me just make sure I have it up to date. It is 48 at every other book, 48.5 at DraftKings. And actually, now that I'm looking at this, it has moved at DraftKings back to 48, but at FanDuel, it has moved to 48.5. So now bet it at FanDuel. But, 48 at every other sportsbook out there. It's an outdoor playoff game between divisional opponents who like to run the ball. That's pretty much the analysis. I've talked about outdoor unders before. During the regular season, the under for all NFL games was 151 to 119 with one push in there. 7% ROI based on information from Action Network. Like, that's a really strong record for the totals. Like last year was by last year, the regular season, that was the most profitable year for under bettors out of the past 2 decades. But last week we did see the over go 5-1, best performance all year for any week. I think that might be inflating the market a little bit, but when the weather gets colder, we see outdoor unders in division have done really well. Over the past 20 years, outdoor divisional play in December and January, the under is 323, 263 and 16, a 7.6% ROI. And in cold weather divisions, so the AFC or NFC North or East, that record has improved to 184, 140 and 9 to the under, 10.5% ROI. In the playoffs, all outdoor unders are 92, 75 and 4 in the past 20 years. It's just colder weather, familiar opponent, postseason matchup. The teams tend to play a little bit slower, a little more intentional, a little more conservative. And again, these are 2 teams that I think in general would like to run the ball. And all of that leads me a little bit towards the under here. In terms of the spread, I have this projected exactly at 7.5, which is where this number was for a lot of the week. But recently we have seen this number move up across the market. Now it is at 8 at most books. So again, I'm not really seeing any or much value at the 8. I have it projected at 7.5. I did bet it early in the week at 7 on Philadelphia because I do think the Eagles come out. Jalen Hurts, I think he's going to be pretty close to Jalen Hurts. He wasn't listed on the practice report at all this week. Fully practiced all 3 days. Lane Johnson is returning. I do like the Eagles in general in this spot, but at the current number of 7.5, 8, I wouldn't be betting it. Fitz, do you have any opinions on this game here?
Yeah, I'm with you on the under. I do think this is going to be a run-heavy game. I mean, the Giants can't afford to get away from the running game going against that outstanding Philly pass defense and, with not a great group of wide receivers. And when the Eagles played the Giants in week 14 and won convincingly 48-22, I mean, they had a lot of success with the running game that day. They had 253 rushing yards, 144 for Miles Sanders, and 77 for Jalen Hurts. So I think they're going to want to run against the Giants, who have not been good against the run this year. A little bit better lately, but still, this is not even an average NFL run defense. So with you there. And yeah, Freedman, it's one of those games where if this was like part of a 16-game slate, I would probably walk away from it. But since we have precious few NFL betting opportunities left, I am going to take the Eagles. I've got this projected at 8. I got it earlier at 7.5. And yeah, one of those, I think the Eagles are a little bit, have a little bit too much class here, a little too much firepower for the Giants, who granted have been incredible overachievers this year. I mean, the Giants are 14-4 against the spread this year. Like, you have not betting against the Giants has not been a winning proposition for you this year. 8-1 against the spread in their last 9 road games. So they've been road warriors under Brian Daboll. Yeah. And, I'm a little nervous about this one. I think they could definitely hang in with the Eagles, but ultimately I do think the Eagles are going to just sort of put them away on the strength of their personnel. I just think they have too much for the Giants.
Yeah, so we have Rance saying here, I think a blowout will happen this weekend. Likely the Giants, their defense is bad. And I agree. I mean, their defense is subpar. They have gotten some players back. They are relatively healthy, but you said, kind of a difference in class between the Eagles and the Giants. And I think that's accurate. And we saw that in the first time that these teams met this season. I believe it was a 48-22 victory for the Eagles. I mean,
that was week 14. And then week 18 was sort of a disregard because that was when the Giants started Davis Webb against the Eagles. Yeah. Although they did hang close with their third string quarterback, but
they did. But that was a different Jalen Hurts. I think he will be healthier coming out of the bye. But I don't think much has changed in terms of how I evaluate these two teams since week 14, when, both quarterbacks were healthy. They were pretty much themselves at that point, and the Eagles just absolutely demolished them. But you are right about Daniel Jones and what he's been able to do on the road, on the road, including the playoffs for his career, 18-7 against the spread. As an underdog, including the playoffs, 27-15 against the spread for his career. In division, Daniel Jones is 12-6 against the spread. So he's on the right side of a lot of his historical angles here. So that makes me a little bit nervous, but I'm on the Eagles. We've got a question from Johnny Doxville asking, what do you guys think of the DK boost? Hurts over 1.5 touchdowns. I don't know what the odds are for the DK boost, but Fitz 1.5 touchdowns. I'm leaning over on that for Jalen Hurts. I have that projected at 1.6. By the way, you can see my projections in the Fantasy Pros projections tool that we have, and that powers the different player props tools we have at BettingPros. Fitz, what do you think? Jalen Hurts over under 1.5 touchdowns?
Yeah, I'm with you, Freedman. If it's at the standard minus 115, I think I would take the over here. If it's minus 140 to take the over, I don't like it as much. And
I think it might be plus money if it's a DK boost. So I would say
right. Yeah, I agree. And in that case, I think you have to take the over.
Yeah. All right. So that is the Saturday game here. Eagles Giants. I'm under 48.5, just kind of sitting there at the spread. All right. For the Sunday games, two great games. Let's start with the late game. Cowboys at 49ers. Fitz, you like the Cowboys at +4. And I got to say, actually, by the way, here, let me get over to, let me get in here. Okay. So I lean towards the 49ers. You are on the Cowboys. And the official betting pros projections also are on the Cowboys. And by the way, you can access the premium projections with a subscription, and you have a shot to win a free upgrade to the Betting Pros Premium if you subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel and comment below on the video. If you do that, obviously we will be announcing the giveaway in a later episode. So if you don't want to wait, you can upgrade today at bettingpros.com/upgrade to access all of our projections and tools. Fitz, Cowboys +4 is the number in the market, kind of sitting around 3.5, 4 for most of the week. You like the Cowboys here. Tell me what you were seeing.
Yeah, so of course you don't like the Cowboys here, Freedman, because you are a cynical Cowboys fan. And I get it. I'm a Packers fan. I don't like betting the Packers most weeks. But we do have, I guess, a mutual tie here with Mike McCarthy. And, despite the presence of Mike McCarthy on the Cowboys sideline, I do like the Cowboys in this one. And I mean, I think we've forgotten how good this team can be. And you said this at the top of the show, like how good these Sunday matchups are. Like if we got these as conference championship games, no one would really be disappointed. Well, other than Chiefs and Eagles fans, but these are just terrific matchups. And I think of the 6 teams that people expected to make the conference championships, we're getting 4 of them on Sunday. So Dallas just laid waste to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And, maybe the Buccaneers are not as good as they're perceived to be, but they're still not a bad team by any stretch. And Dallas just took out the trash in that game. And I think this team is really good. And the Brock Purdy thing is interesting to me, Friedman, because he has made 6 starts now. And basically he's played 7 full games because Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt early in the one game where Purdy first had to come in. In those 7 games, he has not faced a pass defense in the top 12 in DVOA. So he has not faced a really good pass defense yet. He's only faced 2 that were even in the top half of the league in DVOA. So now he's facing the Cowboys, who are 3rd in DVOA against the pass and are 1st in pressure rate for the season. Applying pressure on a quarter of opponent dropbacks. So this is a whole new can of worms for him. And granted, he has a very good offensive line and some fantastic weapons. But Purdy, I think, is going to have to do more than game manage here. It might be one of those games where he has to throw more than 20 or 21 times. And he's had a lot of games where he could get by with that. And, it kind of boosts the efficiency of his passing in that offense. I don't know, the 49ers, as much juice as they have on offense, I think they could find the going much rougher this year. I don't think Brock Purdy is the kind of quarterback who's going to be able to pick on the weak links in the Dallas secondary to the extent that there are any, really, Friedman. Even though they're missing some of the guys who were starting cornerbacks for them earlier in the season, none of these guys are grading terribly per PFF. I know Xavier Rhodes isn't great when they have to put him on the field in dime situations, but he's a dime guy. So he's only playing maybe 30% of the defensive snaps. Basically, and I'm impressed with the Dallas offense. They can run, they can pass, they're versatile. I know the San Francisco run defense has just been airtight, but the Tampa Bay run defense is pretty good. And Tony Pollard was able to have some success against that run defense last week. So I think they'll be able to do enough on offense here. And, I like Dallas not only to cover, I think they're going to win outright.
Wow. I mean, you can see it. It wouldn't surprise me if either team won, either team covered. I think this could be a really tough matchup. These are the two top defenses in expected points added, and both of these offenses can score a ton of points. We've seen that with the Brock Purdy scenario, but what you mentioned, he hasn't faced a lot of tough defenses, so you maybe calibrate a little bit. But the offense for the 49ers hasn't been significantly slowed down with Purdy at quarterback in what we've seen. So like that is at least positive. And then, the Dak Prescott Cowboys, they can score points. So this could be a fantastic game. I have it projected at 4.25. And so, I'm kind of right there around the market. I'm not betting this game. I'm not going to be betting this game. If it got down to 3, which I don't see any chance of it happening, but if it did get down to 3, I would bet the 49ers. But I'm pretty close to being there on the total. Again, with the spread, I'm close to market. I don't think I'm going to be taking a position on this game, but I think if I had to be leaning in one direction, I probably would go with the 49ers. They have the ability on offense to scheme in ways that I think no other team can. Because, they have Christian McCaffrey. He's obviously one of the best running backs in the league with his multi-dimensional skill set, right? They can split him out wide. They can put him in the slot. They can kind of do whatever they want with him. Kyle Juszczyk is a really versatile fullback who can, they can go heavy with him in the backfield. They can put him as a second tight end. So, and he's obviously still a great receiver out of the backfield. Kittle is a really versatile weapon. And then Samuel and Ayuk, those guys are really versatile. So with the 5 guys that they can put around Purdy, they can do a lot. And I do not see Dan Quinn as the type of defensive mastermind who can match up with Kyle Shanahan in that way. Even though those two guys know each other, I still don't see Dan Quinn being the one who uses the familiarity as an advantage. But Kyle Shanahan, I feel like if he's familiar with Dan Quinn's defense, he's going to know what to do against it. Like the Cowboys defense is good because they have freak athletes, not because they have an exceptional scheme. You know what I mean? So I trust the 49ers a little bit more in this spot. But if the Cowboys won, that also wouldn't be a surprise because they're going against a 3rd string, 7th round rookie quarterback. Like you could see how the Cowboys win that game.
Yeah, absolutely. It is an interesting angle that Shanahan and Quinn, former colleagues in Atlanta together. And I kind of didn't factor in that familiarity. But I will point out the other thing is that the Cowboys are actually ranked ahead of the 49ers in the Massey Peabody power rankings, which we cite often in this show because, it's a pretty sharp power rankings index. And I think that said that Dallas is like on a neutral field 1 point better than San Francisco, according to those rankings. So I don't think it's that far-fetched that Dallas could win this game outright, even though I think a lot of people perceive now that Purdy has proven to be, a pretty good, if not playmaker, at least caretaker. He has been a very good game manager for them. And I think with people having confidence in Purdy now, a lot of bettors seem to think the 49ers are invincible. I'm not quite convinced they're invincible.
Yeah, I mean, Rufus Peabody, who manages the power ratings for Massey Peabody and, one of the founders of Unabated, a great website. Obviously, he's one of the sharpest sports bettors in the world. Like if I could just give my money to him and say, hey, Rufus, bet for me, I would do it. And he's probably on the 49ers, on the Cowboys in this spot. But he will admit that if he is slow on one thing, it is upgrading quarterbacks. And so there's the potential that he's slow on upgrading Brock Purdy. There's also the potential that he's right on Purdy and that you're right on Purdy and that the market has been inflating what they think he's capable of doing because of what he's done for the past 6 games against subpar opponents. So it'll be an interesting game here. All right, the final game here to talk about, and this is my bet: Bengals +6 at the Bills. And I mentioned on the Thursday show that I thought the way to play this was to set an alert in the BettingPros app for +6. And we got there. We got there at BetMGM. And in the BettingPros app, you can sync up with sportsbooks. You can get free betting advice and picks. You can track different experts and your own bets. And of course, the alerts. We monitor all the major sports books. So when one of them has a line move that hits a threshold you've set, you get an alert and you can bet it. And it's, sports betting in a very streamlined way. All right. So we hit 6. This number got to 6. And I got to say, it makes me nervous that we got to 6. Like, the market is moving against my general sentiment that the Bengals are the right side here. And at the sharper books, Circa, for instance, this number is +6, while it is +5 at most other books. So that suggests that I'm on the wrong side. Okay. So I need to acknowledge it and own it. Like, I can't ignore that information. I can't put my head in the sand if I want to try to make money sports betting. I have a ton of respect for the market. When it talks, I should listen, et cetera, et cetera. The market is saying I'm wrong. Okay. But I still like the Bengals. Even with that said, I still like the Bengals. I think the market has gone too far. The Bengals are down 3 offensive linemen. Left tackle Jonah Williams, he's got the knee injury. Right guard Alex Kappa, the ankle injury. They're not playing on Sunday. Neither one of them practiced at all this week. And then right tackle Lael Collins, he's on IR, so he was definitely out. So the Bengals down 3 offensive linemen against the Bills. Here's the thing. I, was already accounting for that. And I think the market has over accounted for that. It's not as if you have 3 offensive linemen who are down and the spread should move by 3 points, right? Like, even if you say, okay, there are compounding effects with this unit being, totally diminished, that's fine. But like, a left tackle is worth, like a half point against the spread. A right tackle, let's say he's worth a half a point against the spread. Maybe you add an extra half point in there because of the compounding effects of having 2 backups at that spot. And then, a right guard, he's maybe worth a quarter of a point to the spread. And if you say, okay, well, the right guard plays next to the right tackle, so the right side of your offensive line is diminished, fine, add another half point to that. But like, you're still not getting to 3 full points. And this number has just moved too far, in my opinion, based on the injuries for the Bengals. I think the market has moved too much. So I got to say, I'm on the Bengals in this spot. And the Bills, they do have a significant home field advantage at Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park. Like, that is a real home field advantage, especially like when the weather gets colder. But Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow, he's one of the best road quarterbacks of the past 20 years. He's 17-7 against the spread for his career as a visitor. That's including the playoffs. As an underdog, he's 15-7 against the spread, again, including the playoffs. I just think the market has been historically, for the past year and a half, too low on Burrow and the Bengals since week 10 last year. So that was their bye week last year. The Bengals are 21-7 against the spread with Burrow at quarterback. Just I'm on the Bengals in this spot. And, before adjusting for the short-term injuries, I have the Bengals power rated as 0.25 points underneath the Bills. So I think these are 2 really comparable teams playing each other. And yeah, the Bengals, they're on the road, but that's not that big of a deal. They are without 3 starting offensive linemen. That's significant, but I think the market is just putting too much weight on it. Fitz, give me your opinion on this spot here.
Yeah, I got to disagree with you on the how much weight the market is putting on the offensive line thing. I think it's a big deal. And I think we kind of saw it last week against the Ravens, where Joe Burrow was limited to like 209 passing yards. And, Jamar Chase had 9 catches, but they were for 84 yards. And like, a lot of throws to Chase were within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. And I feel like that's sort of what they're going to be reduced to now, these shorter throws. I think the concerns about protection and, maintaining the integrity of the pocket are going to keep the Bengals from having the sort of deep strike passing game that makes them so dangerous on offense. And it pains me to go against the Bengals because I have the utmost respect for them, have bet them frequently this season. I hated the fact that they were, who was it against earlier this year, the Chiefs, where they were home dogs. And I felt like they should have not been a home dog to anyone, because this is a really solid team. But Man, losing 3 starting linemen, Freedman, like they did not look like the Bengals against the Ravens last week. I mean, that offense was, and granted, yes, that now they've got some time to game plan for it. They lost 2 guys in game, and that's tough to deal with when you're not ready for it. Maybe they can figure out a way around it, but I worry that it's going to be a lot like the divisional round was for the Bengals last year, where Joe Burrow took 9 sacks against the Tennessee Titans. Now, somehow they still managed to win 19-16. Their defense played well that day. But the Tennessee Titans offense of last season is a far cry from the Buffalo Bills offense of this season. So I don't think the Bengals can afford a game where Joe Burrow is getting sacked, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. And, they're still going to overcome that and beat the Bills in Buffalo. I don't see it happening.
All right. So, we've got a comment. Did you see the O-line the Dolphins put out there last week from True Blazer? Yeah, like the offensive line that the Dolphins had last week was, I'd say, comparable to the offensive line that we're going to see from the Bengals. And it's not as if the Bills were able to capitalize on that in a major way. Without Von Miller, their defensive line is fine. It's not like an elite unit or anything like that. It's fine. I don't know, man. Where would you set the line for sacks? Like if you were trying to be realistic, where would you set the line for the number of sacks that Joe Burrow is going to take in this game?
5.
5?
Yeah.
You'd set it at 5?
Yeah.
I'll take the under just as like a matter of me being sort of like, I don't know, skeptical might be the wrong word. Maybe optimistic is the right word on that, but I'm going to take the under.
Well, I mean, Burrow is a pocket hero. He's not like Tom Brady. If it was Tom Brady dealing without 3 starting offensive linemen, I'd still say it'd be like, 1.5 or 2, because he just unloads the ball so quickly. But yeah. Burrow is a pocket hero. He doesn't mind standing in there and eating a sack.
Yeah, I think, I guess we're probably splitting hairs. I would set it at 4.5 maybe. And fair. I'd probably still be interested in the under at that number, but we will see. I feel like Burrow he's matured in this season. He gets the ball out a little bit faster. And I think, with the week to game plan, they will just know, okay, we need to have a shorter passing attack. And that will mean that they aren't as explosive. And, so maybe they have to have longer drives. They have fewer drives, but I still think they will be able to move the ball. So I don't know. I could see them losing, but still covering. I can see them losing by 3. I think that's a reasonable projection. The Bengals losing by 3. But man, I have it at 4.75. So 6 just feels like too much.
Yeah, I have had it at 5.5 all along. So, but at the same time, if it is at 6, I still don't want to bet the Bengals.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. If it got to 7, you would be on the Bengals.
I think I would be on the Bengals at 7.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the total in this one?
No opinion at all on the total. It's at let me see here. It's at 49 right now. I have it at 48.6. I got nothing here. I could see the under. I could see the under.
I like the under for the same reason I like the Bills in this game. The offensive line thing. Like I am, maybe I'm over adjusting for the offensive line injuries, but like I do think that's the reason I don't see this game, playing 50 or above. I think it's going to be below 50. For sure.
I mean that's fair. And if you do think that it's a spot where the Bengals just aren't able to move the ball, yeah, I think maybe the under is the better play than the Bills. Because even if the Bills are able to shut down the Bengals offense, I could still see it being a kind of close game, just because that's the kind of game that the Bengals tend to play. And so I could see the under here with the Bengals still being able to cover. All right, let's see if there are any other things that we should be talking about here. Oh, I got to mention the Wong teaser for today. Today is like the classic spot of we've got two teams that are right in that zone. We have Kansas City at 9.5. So actually, no, they have moved outside of the Wong teaser zone. So never mind. When this was at 8.5, it was perfect. And then you had the Eagles at 7.5. It was perfect. So I think a ton of people already jumped on this bet. You would tease Kansas City from 8.5 to 2.5, tease Philadelphia from 7.5 to 1.5, and minus 120 odds. I liked that bet quite a bit, but we are no longer in the Wong teaser zone, so never mind. Fitz, anything else that you are betting for either of these games? Is there a favorite prop that you have that you would maybe want to talk about? Anything that has caught your eye?
Yeah, I'll mention a few props. First, let me answer one of the, it wasn't so much a question in the comment section, but Tom Pierce, when he took issue with me referring to Brock Purdy as a game manager. I'm not trying to trash Purdy at all. I mean, he's done a fantastic job. So I'm not disparaging his effect. And I think he might, hey, Tom Brady had a great career as a 6th round NFL draft pick. So I'm not dismissing Purdy out of hand, but in his 6 starts, he's averaged, I believe, 25.7 pass attempts per game. So that's kind of game managing. Like, you've got the very effective running game. Purdy does not have to throw a lot of passes. And, I think Tom would agree that Purdy has not exactly been making like Aaron Rodgers type tight windows throws 25 yards downfield, threading it in between 2 defenders to a guy on the sidelines. He's been very efficient. He's been making the right reads. He's been excellent for them, no question. But I guess that's what I meant by game manager. He's not being asked to throw it 40 times and go out and just win the game on his own. So, all right. Yeah. The props, 2 of these are kind of correlated. I like Trevor Lawrence over. This is as of Thursday. I'm not sure how much these lines are definitely sensitive to betting movement. As of Thursday, it was 243.5 passing yards for Trevor Lawrence. I like that over. I think we've got a shootout game script here for sure. And because of that, I also like the under on Travis Etienne rushing yardage, which was at 70.5. When we saw the Chiefs and Jaguars play in week 10, Etienne carried 11 times for 48 yards. It's just not a game script, I think, where Etienne is going to be doing a lot of rushing. I think it's, if things play out according to the odds, we're going to see the Jaguars chasing and not in a real run-friendly game script. So what else? I like Joe Burrow under 279.5 passing yards for all the reasons mentioned earlier. I just worry about those offensive line injuries really not giving him the time for those deep strike throws to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And I like Brock Purdy under 30.5 pass attempts for the reasons I mentioned earlier. That he has been throwing sort of minimally in his 6 starts. He's only thrown more than 30 passes once. So I think the 49ers are going to endeavor to keep the ball on the ground today.
Yeah, it's a situation with Purdy where he's looked great whenever they've asked him to drop back and throw the ball. 13.1 adjusted yards per attempt in last week's game during the regular season, 8.6 adjusted yards per attempt. Like he's been doing what they need him to do, especially in the intermediate part of the field. He's been one of the best, just in terms of completion percentage over expectation, one of the best quarterbacks throwing into that intermediate part. They're just not asking him to throw a ton, right? They haven't been in positions where they need him to throw a ton. So, we'll just kind of have to see how the game script plays out, but I can see how he ends up throwing under 30.5 pass attempts. Like you can see that. It feels like a kind of Garoppolo type of thing where Garoppolo, even if he had a good game, that didn't mean he was necessarily throwing a lot of pass attempts. So I could see that here. My favorite prop for this week, Kadarius Toney under 33.5 receiving yards. I just don't know if it's going to be a situation where they need to throw all that often to Kadarius Toney, right? They've got other players. They've got Travis Kelce. They have Jerick McKinnon out of the backfield. They've got Juju. Kadarius Toney is, I think, still a rotational player. And even though he should be playing more with Mecole Hardman not active, I still don't think that means Kadarius Toney gets to the over there. I have it projected 25.5. So under 33.5 at FanDuel minus 110 odds. I think there's significant value there. Okay. Fitz, the rest of your Saturday, what does it look like? What do you got going on?
Oh, man. I think there's some kid chauffeuring to be done, but hopefully that is over with by the time Jaguars Chiefs kick off, and I can settle in with an IPA and watch the games in peace. What about you, Freedman?
So I'm updating my unit power rankings, also starting to do some work for the 2023 NFL draft, mapping out different mock scenarios. So starting to lay the groundwork for my first mock of 2023. And then Eden and I are doing a very Midwesterner kind of thing. We're going to a Wisconsin supper club. We're going with another couple. Obviously, this is something the wives planned because I wouldn't ordinarily be doing this during playoff football. So I'll probably be sneaking some glances at my phone, to try to see what the scores are during dinner. Maybe there will be a bar there with the TV so I can sort of, sneak in there and see what the score is. And then hopefully we get home in time to see what's going on. So that's what I got going on. Some Wisconsin supper club action.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, is this a genuine Wisconsin supper club? Do they have the Lazy Susan on the table with the relish trays so you can spin it around and make sure everyone gets some?
We've never been to this particular supper club, but we have been assured that it is like a legit supper club, Nice. So that's nice. Why we're going. Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for the Divisional Round Betting Pros live stream. Thank you to everyone for watching, joining in, for everyone commenting. If you like the show, do us a solid, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck and see you next episode.